in this month of Ramadan and increase us in wisdom and in nur. We're here by the intention to expose ourselves to the mercy of Allah, to His kindness and His wisdom and His generosity. We're here by the intention to be amongst those who are thabit upon Sirat al-Mustaqim. We're here by the intention to be amongst those that Allah accepts, to be amongst those who are the awliya of Allah. I want to actually talk about this topic because this is the evening of the commemoration of Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, Allah Yarhamuhu. And I want to talk about him in relationship to this ayah in Surah Al-Yunus, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألا أن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون لهم بشرا في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ولا تبديل لكلمات الله ذلك هو الفوز العظيم. Behold, verily no fear shall be on the awliya or the friends of Allah, nor shall they grieve. Those who believe and constantly keep themselves from evil, for them are glad tidings in this world and in the hereafter. There is no change in the words of Allah. That is the great success. I want to talk about when Allah Ta'ala talks about the awliya of Allah. I want us to understand first that what is the significance to being the awliya of Allah. There are three particular people and categories that are saved from the torment of the grave and the punishment of the hellfire, and they are guaranteed Jannah. And these three people are the Anbiya, the Awliya, and the Shuhada. And so when we're talking about the Anbiya, these are the prophets of Allah. And the prophets of Allah, they are chosen. They were chosen 50,000 years before the heavens and the earth were created, but Allah Ta'ala knew, I'm going to create the earth. The Anbiya, they're chosen from Allah. So this is a clear division in the sand between the Muslims and any other deen. You can't go to prophecy school. You can't pray your way. You can't dhikr your way. You can't recite your way into prophecy, right? However, you can, instead of us being so much concerned with the title, you can be granted, though, alhamdulillah, a maqam and a station that you can raise to receive that same reward, right? That same station without being an anbiya of Allah. And these are called the awliya of Allah, the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those that Allah says they constantly guarded themselves away from evil. Right? And so this huge station, we have examples of them in the Quran. I want to talk to my sisters for a moment. For example, some of the examples of them in the Quran amongst women, and I'm just going to mention amongst the women because I know my brothers are present, but I want them to understand that this is not just a man thing. That when we're talking about, for example, women, one of them is Maryam alayha salam, right? That she was a waliya of Allah. That Allah Ta'ala gave her such a rank and a station. And how do we know she had the rank and the station of the Anbiya? Because it was the angel Jibra'il who came to speak to her. And the angel Jibra'il has one job and one job alone. Right? He speaks, his job is to deliver the message specifically to the Anbiya. To deliver the message to prophets. Right? But he came to visit Maryam. Right? So this is, and also Allah Ta'ala manifests miracles and miracles on the hand of Maryam. So this is one sign. Another case is the example of Hajar. Right? That you cannot complete Hajj, radiallahu ta'ala anha. That you cannot complete Hajj, your fifth pillar of Islam. You cannot complete your deen unless you go on Hajj. And you cannot complete Hajj unless you make Safa and Marwa. Unless you do Sa'i. Which is to do what? To walk in the footsteps of Hajar. Right? And so this is proof that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that how is it that Hajar gets this position, gets this rank when all the other actions are actions of the prophets, actions of the Anbiya, right? Because this is the station of the awliya, fi dunya wal akhirah. So when we're talking about la yakhawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun, that on them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. This is actually, most people think that this is the result of being an awliya. But in reality, this is actually the condition. This is the precondition of being a wali of Allah. In order to get to this rank, We have to be completely removed of fear and grief. And when we look at our beloved brother Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, Allah yarhamuhu wa irfa maqamuhu, when we look at his station, this was his case. What is it that caused him to raise to this rank? People know. He would stand in front, unconcerned about what people think, unconcerned about Pharaoh, the Pharaoh of his time, unconcerned. He would look in the face of death and say, and smile, as we know he did. Allah yarhamu. Right? Recognize, I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of meeting Allah. I'm not afraid of whatever threat you think you pose to me. I'm not afraid of speaking the truth. Actually, I'm more afraid of not speaking the truth to Allah. Why? Because I have no fear except that of Allah Ta'ala. I have no fear except that of taqwa. Right? This is what it means. وَلَا يَحْزُنُونَ. So I'm going to try to go through this like super fast speed, really quick inshallah, to tell us the story of Prophet Musa, as we all, alayhi salam, as we all recite this in Surah Al-Kahf every Friday at Jummah. Allah Ta'ala reminds us in Surah Al-Kahf the journey of Musa with Khidr. And the journey of Musa and Khidr is that, subhanAllah, this is a very important journey. But long story short, this journey, as we know, Musa says, I am, and I want you to pay attention to these points. Musa says to his people, someone asked him, Ya Musa, is there anyone more knowledgeable than you? He says, no, there's no one more knowledgeable than me. And Allah reminds him, no, there's someone more knowledgeable than you. Musa immediately humbles himself. And he says, Ya Allah, then guide me to him and let me learn from him. And so he guides him to Khidr. And I'm giving the speed version, so forgive me. So he guides him to Khidr. And when he meets Khidr, he tells him, let me be a student. Let me follow you. Let me walk with you. Let me walk this path with you. And Khidr tells him, you're not going to be able to walk this path with me. You're not going to be able to be patient. And Musa says, no, you'll find me patient. Like, you'll find me patient, right? And Khidr is like, it's not going to happen, but I'm going to give you 3 chances, right? And Musa says, after 3 chances, if I'm not patient, you can depart from me. Said, agreed. They begin the journey. The first thing is, they take a ship. When they're on the ship, and basically to cross from one area to another, they're on the ship, and Khidr scuttles the boat. He puts a hole in the boat. They begin, and it appears as if they're about to drown, right? Musa does what? Loses his cool. What are you doing? These people were nice enough to let us take a ride on their ship. And why would you put a hole in their boat? And Khidr tells him, I told you you wouldn't be able to be patient. Right? He said, I'm sorry. Okay, I lost it for a moment. You'll find me patient. I'm sorry. They get on the other side. As they're walking, there is a young, handsome young man. Khidr finds him and snaps his neck. And Musa is like, oh, wait a minute. Like, you've crossed the line. Like, I thought that you were, I thought you were the knowledgeable one. I thought maybe I met the wrong person. Maybe I ran into the wrong person. I'm not quite sure. And Khidr says to him, I told you you wouldn't be able to be patient with me. And Musa tries to pull himself together. And he says, okay, all right, look, you'll find me patient. And he tries to get himself together. It gets dark. They're looking for a place to stay. They go to a particular inn. When they get to this inn, the people basically discriminate against them and tell them, you can't stay here. You too, you can't stay here. I'm sorry. Not here. They got room, but they won't let them stay. Right? And so then they're sitting outside. It's late at night trying to figure out what are we going to do next. They notice there's a wall that's falling, that if it keeps falling, it's going to crush the inn. So Khidr then gets up and he stands up the wall to keep it from crushing the inn. Musa's like, wait a minute, hold up. The people who are nice to us, you scuttled their boat. These people are rude to us, discriminate us, and put us out, and yet you're helping them. I don't understand. And Khidr says to him, this is the departing between me and you, because that was your 3rd chance. So Musa's like, so he says, but listen, I'm going to tell you the meaning. So he gives the meaning, and we're all familiar with the story. The first meaning about the boat, he says there was a king who was coming, and he was going to basically he was going to pirate this boat. He was going to take their boat from them and kill the people or make them slaves on board. So I scuttled the boat in order so the king would say, oh, this boat is ruined, leave him. And so he would pass them by. The next one, he says, this boy was actually going to grow up and be a challenge for his parents. He was going to grow up and be a disbeliever and a mischief on the earth. So I removed him before the age of puberty. Why? What happens? If he dies before the age of puberty, he's Ahlul Jannah. Right? And this is what their parents are asking for. And Allah is going to replace him with another son, a son better than him. Then lastly, he says for these people, for the wall, there was a group of orphans. Basically, they're going to grow up. And their parents were righteous people. And they buried something for them underneath this wall. But as the wall is falling, it's revealing the treasure. Now, most of us know the story from this point. But all of this shows us the wisdom of Allah as it relates to the other side. But what is the test for Musa? What is the reason that Allah Ta'ala set this specific test for Musa? Let's go through it really fast, inshallah. So the first one, as it relates to scuttling the boat. We're all very familiar that when Musa was a young boy, Pharaoh was walking around, he was having his army kill all of the young boys of his time. And we're going to get to that. And so his mother put him in a basket, in a container, and she put him in the water. Right? And so as she put him in the water, there's subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. Long story short, this is a story Musa heard growing up, right? This is something that this fear. What is Musa's fear? And listen, did you hear what I said? His fear. He has a fear of death and a fear of drowning, right? There's a fear connected to it. Are we all going to die? Are we all going to drown? Are we all going to be overtaken in this moment? So that's one thing. Then when it comes to the young boy, there are two things that are manifest. The first one is Musa has a shame because we know that he fled from Egypt because he accidentally killed a man, right? So there is a shame and a grief connected to him as it relates to murder, as it relates to the death, especially of young men. And even more so than that, because he grew up seeing so much bloodshed and hearing about all the young men that were killed in the streets, this was something that he had a grief about and a fear about. Right? So even the thought of another young man dying, he thought, I can't take that. Right? And so this brought up in Musa, khawf wa ham, fear and grief. And then in the last case is basically he has a feeling of being put out. Someone saying, you're not welcome here. Someone discriminating against you based on whether it's your national origin, the color of your skin. You know they have rooms, but for whatever reason they discriminated against and they say you can't stay here. You're not welcome here. This particular story is very significant as it relates to our people in America, because every last one of these cases relates to us. We are a people, subhanAllah, that are swamped with fear and grief. Why? We are a people that even as there are a multitude of things that you could mention to us. Right? For example, we're people that, we even say, for example, there are some of us that never learned to swim. We have entire communities of black folk who refuse to learn how to swim. Right? And that's connected to boats, fear on boats, and a whole bunch of things. Then, as it relates to seeing our young men dying by the thousands at this point, there's something about how can we be 50 years since the passing of Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, Allah yarhamahu, and we're still dealing with the massive police brutality. We're still dealing with the massive murder of our men. What keeps us from standing up? What keeps us from being in the street in their face every day? What keeps us from mobbing police houses and saying, I will not move? Right? I will not move until you not only give me answers, but you give me justice. Right? What is that? Fear of death. Fear of death. Shame that we carry. And then, of course, this constant thing that we carry of being put out, of being the other. Whether it's because I don't speak Arabic like they speak Arabic, or it's because whether it's American or in certain masjids, what keeps us from living the legacy of Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz? And I'm not talking about living it the way he lived it. I'm talking about even building upon it. What keeps us from completing his mission? Khawf wa huzn, fear and grief. But until we learn the lesson of what it means to be awliya of Allah, to completely remove ourselves of that fear and grief. And I want us to take this one last point. In both cases, in the case of Musa alayhi salam and in the case of Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, rahmatullah alayhi, there are key things that had to happen. The number one thing, in order for him, because we all knew him as Malcolm X, we knew he was fearless, we knew he would fight you to the death even then. But something came, and it's part of the reason we're standing in this masjid today, is that literally he had to transcend the knowledge he thought he knew into a higher knowledge. He had to, and even Musa, he thought he was the most knowledgeable in the land. So, but there's someone more knowledgeable than you. And even then, at the height of his career, at being the height of status, at being the height of people knowing this is Malcolm X, he had to humble himself to a teacher, right? To take him to that next level. And so for us, there are many things that we're carrying that we think we knew. But if we truly knew, there'd be more young people in this masjid. Right? Our families would be more well intact. Our marriages would be more sound. Our sisters would be less hurt, less bitter. Our brothers would be less worn down. We have a tradition of awliya of Allah. We have a tradition of that, and we have a sanad in America. So Allah Ta'ala, not only did he cause him to raise to that highest level of completely removing fear and grief and humbling himself and to raise to a higher knowledge, then Allah gave him the second. When Allah says, I'm going to bear witness that you are a awliya of Allah, a wali of Allah, I'm going to bear witness and make you a shaheed. But you can only be shaheed because of Allah Ta'ala, as we learn in Surah Al-Mulk, Allah is the commander and the creator of life and death. So when Allah Ta'ala gave him death, he made him a shaheed. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So within that, Allah gave our brother, our teacher, our imam, Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, he gave him 2 ranks like the Anbiya. He gave him wali of Allah wa shaheed of Allah. This, without a shadow of a doubt, is a lesson for us. Let us never, may Allah Ta'ala remove from us khawf wa huzn. La yakhawfun alayhum wa la hum yahzanun. Jazakum Allah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
May Allah reward our sister. That's the Aisha Prime that doesn't feel well.
You ought to see the other one.
Alhamdulillah. So we're going to just keep right on moving, and we're going to bring our brother lecturing here. That might be for the second time, for those of you not aware, Dr. Bilal Ware, and I'm going to ask Imam Abdul Khalik to come up and say a couple of quick things about Dr. Ware and then to bring him on.
Transitioning. Can we start over just so that we're not
Bismillah. Brothers and sisters, if you have the opportunity to buy Dr. Ware's book, The Walking Quran, it is a very important book about how our ancestors and our brothers and sisters in Africa, how they developed not only reciters, but the character of the Quran, the brain of the Quran, the emotions of the Quran within their young people, and so that they would be the walking Quran. So this is an amazing book, and inshallah, I hope you get it and you think about it for yourself as well as for your children. But Professor Ware, subhanAllah,